Gun. Drop the gun. Put the gun down. Put the gun down. Put the gun on the ground.
We've got to acknowledge the retirement of Dublin, the Ashland Fire Department rescue dog.
To all the members of the Ashland Fire Department who
It's our Super Bowl, basically, and so we work really hard with all the staff to make sure that everything is exactly the way it needs to be to present to the town.
Ever since I was a little girl, I've dreamed of my senior prom.
Having the most amazing day, and I did.
Until I made a poor decision.
A decision that changed the rest of my life.
And the decision that ended my best friend's life.
I learned the hard way that proms and alcohol don't mix.
And I had to deal with the consequences of getting into that car every single day.
Everyone makes mistakes. Don't let this be your last one.
I want to welcome everyone who's here and everyone at home who's watching to a candidates forum co-sponsored by the We Love Ashland group and the Friends of the Ashland Public Library. My name is Roberta Suleman and I'm the chair of Ashland's Open Space Committee, Open Space and Recreation Committee. The purpose of tonight's forum is to promote civic engagement, to promote the transfer of information from the candidates to you voters who are going to make a decision about who serves you in the coming years. And in short, democracy sort of requires these kinds of forums. Whether or not the races are contested, it's important to get information about the candidates you choose to vote for, because you always have the choice of writing in someone else if you want to. For me personally, I don't think you have the choice to not vote. But I hope everyone does come out to vote on the election, and I hope that people tune in to see this because I think it's really important, and I want to thank all the candidates who made time out of their busy schedules to come tonight. I want to thank the co-sponsors, again, the We Love Ashland group and the Friends of the Ashland Public Library, our volunteer organizers, Betsy Emberly, Denise Montoya, Kathy Rooney, and Cynthia Whitty. And I want to thank Ashland Cable Access TV, WACA-TV, for sending a crew over and for their filming tonight. Our candidates in alphabetical order who are here and present, I'm going to just introduce them as we go around the table and tell you what office they are running for. Carolyn Bell is running for re-election as a library trustee. Cab Rabinowitz is also running for re-election as a library trustee. Steve Mitchell is running for re-election to the Board of Selectmen. Adam Elbert is running for a slot on the Board of Health. And Michaela Eldridge is running for the Housing Authority. We have some other candidates who, due to schedule conflicts, were unable to be here tonight, and I'm just going to name them so that people understand that there are more than 5 positions open. There are 10 candidates who are running for election. The ones who are not here are Vanessa Charles for the Planning Board, Charles Green for Assessor, Ed Hart for Board of Health, Adam Schuster for Town Meeting Moderator, and Laurie Tosti for School Committee. The forum rules that were set out by the organizers, and I believe agreed to by the candidates, is that each one of you will have an opportunity to make opening remarks for 2 minutes, and then each question will be posed to you as appropriate. You'll have 2 minutes to answer, and if someone else wants to make a response in response to your answer to the question, they'll have an opportunity to do so for a minute. All right, some of the questions are applicable across the board to all of the open positions, and some of the questions will be geared specifically to you for the position that you are currently seeking. I'll be asking questions for a little while to start us off, and then we'll ask the audience for questions, and when we run out of questions, we will be out of questions, and that will be the end of tonight's forum. Those of you from the audience, I just want to set some ground rules for asking questions. Please stand up if you can and ask your question very loudly. If there's a possibility that folks might not have heard you or that it might not have been picked up by the microphone, I'll repeat your question. Please be concise, ask a question, don't give a speech. If you want more information, you can certainly follow up with the candidates on a one-to-one basis after the forum. Please hold any applause and cheering until the end, out of respect for all the candidates. We expect everyone to be civil and respectful, and this is not a popularity contest or a name recognition contest. I hope that you really are asking questions that will get you some answers as to the future direction of the town as seen through the eyes of these candidates. Okay, good luck, everybody. And I think what's probably just easiest for us to start off is just to go around the table. We'll start here, and when I ask the questions, if there are questions for everyone to answer, we'll go this way one time and then that way another time to give everyone ample opportunity. Carolyn, Bella, would you like to start off, please? And you're running for library trustee.
Yes, and I have 2 minutes?
Yes, you do.
Okay. 20 years ago when I ran for this office, there were 2 things that I wanted. I wanted to have a library that people did not drive by on their way to another library. And I wanted a library where kids had access to computers if they didn't have them at home. And as it turned out, adults also don't have them at home. And we accomplished that in 2004. And almost immediately we had cuts. And then we had to have a waiver from the state because we were not, we almost lost our accreditation. So we've had waivers for the last 8 years, and now we're climbing back, and with our new town manager and assistant town manager, they have told us that we will be reinstating some of our hours, so that'll be 10 to 6 on Friday. But because we had shortened hours and we had just minimal funds for what we were supposed to have, we were fighting not to lose our accreditation. So what this accreditation means to us is that we are part of a consortium that I think is the best in the country, because we are in a consortium of 43 libraries. And some of those libraries are just beautifully funded. I mean, for instance, some of these libraries have over $100 per capita. Ashland is $18 per capita. And in order to tell you where we're going and what we want to try to accomplish with the funding is to tell you how we compare to other towns. So I took some notes, and I thought it might interest you that Framingham is $39 per capita. Now we're 18. Natick is 64, Holliston 32, Millis 42, Mendon 30. And the one library near us, which is 17, lost its accreditation and is climbing back, and that's Medway at 17. So, you know, we're not trying to be Cambridge, we aren't Cambridge, but we certainly do want good funding. To give you one example of what happens, when I buy a book and the library buys a hardcover book, we pay the same price, and the library keeps it and I keep it. But what happens if you buy an e-book, which everybody wants nowadays, I suppose? If you buy an e-book, it costs the library $75, where it costs the citizen, you know, an ordinary person, maybe $12, $13 for the e-book. And then, after you've used it so many times, I think 29 might be the figure, the library has to rebuy the book. So the technology, keeping up with technology and keeping up with the kind of, you know, e-books is an expensive proposition. And so that's why we would like to maintain this library and to have more offerings and to have a little more ability to do more with the money. I had hoped when we built the library that we could be open on Sundays, and it turned out we had to close 2 more days instead. But we're coming back.
Okay. Thank you. Cab?
Well, I agree with everything that Carolyn said. I had lived in Cambridge for 20 years, And I've spent the last 10 years on the library board struggling with Carolyn to bring Ashland up to Cambridge standards. When I first walked into the Ashland Library in 1997, it even smelled bad. It smelled dirty and musty, and it was full of 1950s bestsellers. And I realized fairly quickly that there were people working to better this, even then. We've had a real success story in some ways with our building of the huge new addition and getting a wonderful library director, but we have not been funded properly. We are still not funded properly. We are not funded to the extent that we would really like to be funded, and all the things that we could do if we had more money. But we're realistic. We're very grateful for the increase that we've just received. And we're fighting the battles about the e-books and the 29 lendings, and you get new technology, you get new problems. I'd like to continue to work on all the issues that we have and continue to improve the library.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Roberta, and thanks to the We Love Ashland group, to Friends of the Library, to the good folks at WACA. My name is Steve Mitchell. I'm running for re-election for the Board of Selectmen. I've lived in town since 1975. Population then maybe 7,800 people, and we're now at about 1,700 people. My past service in town involvements have been on the last Charter Review Committee. I served on the Finance Committee for roughly 5 years. I'm a founding member of the Ashland Farmers Market and serve on its steering committee, as well as serving on the steering committee for the upcoming Ashland Music and Arts Festival. I hope I'm not preempting a question, but if you're like me, I'd like to know why people are running for an office or running for re-election, in my case. But regardless of past experience, this position, this role has a learning curve, and it's been a very challenging 3 years. It's been a very satisfying 3 years, and it's been a great opportunity to learn. And some of the lessons that I'll learn, I just want to speak to a couple of those, and one of which is grassroots efforts, and I think the importance of grassroots efforts, and I see a number of those events and opportunities that are occurring, and we need to, as selectmen, we need to encourage more of that kind of bottom-up rather than top-down of governance. The other lesson I think I've learned is that local government is really in the quality of life business, and I think whether you talk about the libraries, the Board of Health, the Housing Authority, the Board of Selectmen, that's really what we do. And the obvious quality of life concerns are public safety and education. But over the past 3 years, I believe we've enhanced a number of areas in town. We've completed a major field project. We've purchased a major land purchase in Warren Woods. We became a green community. We've passed the meals tax. Now, nobody likes the T word, but we passed the meals tax that's enhancing services at the library, enhancing services at the community center, and is also being earmarked for Route 126 revitalization projects. We've also, over the past 3 years, our operational improvements have been dramatic. There's been we have policies relative to debt and reserve that we never had in the past. We're doing performance management reviews as a town. But all that aside, we have our challenges. Like every community, one of the lessons that I've learned are the challenges that we face. They include things, sustainability, such as sustainability of programs and services, budget forecasting in an environment where we can't depend on state funding, community and economic development, community vision, and citizen involvement. I believe that my local government experience and my community involvement have demonstrated the ability to serve this community, and I appreciate the support for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Adam Elbert is running for Board of Health.
Hi, so my name is Adam Elbert. I've been in Ashland since December of 2010. Prior to that, I lived in Shrewsbury for about 13 years. So I'm not an Ashland longtime resident. I've certainly been in the area for a while. I'm running for the Board of Health primarily because my wife convinced me that you can't just complain about it, you need to go out there and help fix it. I would like to say thank you very much to Mr. Smart and Dr. Reep. They've set the bar very, very high with their years of service and all that they've achieved, and I can only hope to aspire to achieve the same levels that they have. I have 2 children in the schools. I see the need to make improvements and to try and help Ashland continue moving forward, and that's what I want to do, is just contribute and help and get everything where we want it to be. We want to make sure that we're preserving the natural areas in town. We want to make sure that we're maintaining clean water and clean air. Do we have to go back and look at the different things like Nyanza? Is something happening with that? And we need to be vigilant. So those are all things that I see as items that are on our agenda, and anything that you think is important. One of the things that's very important to me is if you have a question or a concern, please bring it to us. You know, over the past year, the Board of Health has dealt with a number of different things. Marijuana dispensaries potentially coming into town. Issues that were raised about wireless safety in our schools. You know, don't be afraid. We should be maintaining transparency and openness with everyone in the community, and I hope that everyone will feel comfortable to come forward and bring those types of issues to us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Michaela Eldridge is running for Housing Authority.
I've been on the Housing Authority for 6 years, running for re-election for another 5. I've been in Ashland for 45 years. I have 2 sons that have graduated from Ashland High School. One son has a business here in Ashland, Eldridge Plumbing. Is that all right that I said that? I'm sorry.
I guess it is now.
That wasn't part of my speech. But I'm so glad to be part of the community for helping the elderly, the disabled, and since I've been on the board for 6 years, we have done a lot. We've given them a new sewerage system. We've put in new alarm systems. We've given them different cable systems so that they have their choice of what they want to do. We still have so much more to go, and I just want to inform people because someone didn't realize that Ashland Housing Authority is not run by Ashland. We're voted in by you people. Thank you very much. But if the state, we're state-run, we're state-oriented, and we are a handful, maybe 6 or 7, from the whole state of Massachusetts that are self-sufficient. We run our own organization. We have asked for no help from anybody. We're trying to get new doors, new windows. I've been nominated from the Ashland Housing Authority to be on the CPC, which is the Community Preservation Committee. They need to spend money, and I'm willing to give it to my poor and my disabled. We need windows and doors, and we're putting through a warrant for that the Affordable Housing Act can do under the CPC. Also, I've gotten Keefe Tech to come in and to help us make it so it's a place that they're proud to live in, to be a part of in the town of Ashland. New signs, they have great benches and a swing, you know, for older people, not a swing set for kids, you know. I don't know what you call it, but it's been there for 50 years, and they just need refurbishing. We just need a little help, and I'm glad to be part of that service for them. And again, I've gotten the Middlesex Sheriff's Department from their community work program to come in to help us with landscaping, to help us with painting, to help us with other stuff, which is a great thing that other people could do. Besides having Keefe Tech help us, besides having the CPC on the affordable housing. And this year we got annihilated by snow removal because the town of Ashland, I better not say that. They don't do anything for us. But again, we're not part of Ashland, so the snow removal, just to keep my people, not my people, our town. These are people that have lived in Ashland that need this, you know, that need the housing. And it's nice to see. We'd like to stop. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I want to apologize for not saying at the beginning that you were running for re-election. Okay, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Maybe I'll start with a question for Michaela, because I think that a lot of people might not understand what the Housing Authority does, what properties they manage, and exactly what kinds of things they take care of. So maybe you could answer that question for folks.
Absolutely. The Ashland Housing Authority stands right across the street from Stone Park. Our address is 59 Park Road. We have 40 units. The units have been there for 50 years. We're 50 years old. Always has been from the state. Ashland has always voted people on the board for the committee that I'm running re-election for. The state has always had a representative on the board also, which hasn't happened for the last 3 years since the state person was retired. But we do, did I answer the question?
That's
I'm
up
sorry.
to you. You've got time to go if you have more to say.
I forgot what the question was.
It was to explain the Housing Authority.
Oh, so what we do is we have 40 units, and those units are strictly for elderly, low income, and disabled. We're not affordable housing. We don't do Section 8. We don't do anything. We are strictly for the poor of Ashland, the people that really need the help. Like I said, and we've got a wait list of at least 30 people trying to get in there. And I'm really glad I'm able to help them, just to make it nice for a place for them to go. I mean, I'm elderly. I could be having to live there. Luckily, my son won't allow it. So, but I just, it's more people should be aware of the housing. They have a great community hall. We gave them a new laundry room facility. We've just put in a new kitchen for them. They have new restroom facilities so they can use the community house for parties, for getting together with their families, for just to make it a happy place to be. And it would be nice if people, could come and see it. That's also on the Town of Ashland Day. The senior center has their flea market there. And I say to them, use my name, and when you have to go to the restroom, walk into the Housing Authority, because it's right there and it's clean. But I mean, we're here to help. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question is for Adam. You had said that one of the motivations to run for the Board of Health was that your wife said you shouldn't complain about it anymore, you should do something about it. So what exactly do you think is not going right that comes under the purview of the Board of Health, and what would be your priorities for change?
I'm not sure that there's anything horrifically wrong. I think there's a lot of things that the Board of Health deals with on a regular basis, and they need to be vigilant. We have restaurants in town. Are they maintaining the sanitary conditions that are required? If somebody wants to establish a marijuana dispensary, what do we have to do in order to make sure that they're following the laws of the land that have just recently changed? Are there concerns in the community about safety in the schools? Is it because of wireless technology or something else? So from my perspective, I think that the most important thing for the Board of Health is to be vigilant and to try and answer questions and investigate issues as they come up. I certainly don't consider myself an expert. I'm not a physician. But my job would be, as the Board of Health, is to find out the answers and to bring in the subject area experts who can give those answers to the community. And then we can make a more informed and intelligent decision on how to go forward.
Okay. I think I'm going to ask each one of you what your priorities are, and I think we've sort of heard from Housing and the Board of Health. But Steve, should you be re-elected to the Board of Selectmen for the next term, what would be your top 3 priorities, the things that you really want to get accomplished?
Well, I guess I would include what I would phrase, and again, it may be an overused word, but community vision. I think we talk about vision, we talk about a lot of different things. We have a lot of different groups that talk about different aspects about ways to, how they see the town becoming better. And I think we have the beginning of that with a comprehensive plan, but I think we need to present or come to some point of articulating a community vision, something that we reach out to as many sectors of the community as we can and develop that. I think that's a high priority. I think the sustainability of programs and services going on. How do we provide for either maintaining services or growing services? I mean, we've talked over the last 10 years about cutbacks with services. We've been fortunate enough to improve over the last year, improve some of those services. So that's a big one. And I think, the challenge there is that we can't depend on other layers of government to rely on. And we need to be looking at our community and our economic development and how that ties into our ability to fund or continue to fund our programs and services. And one of the things that's being worked on now, the town has been invited to become a participant in what's called EDSTA, which is an Economic Development Self-Assessment Program. It's sponsored by the Metro West Chamber of Commerce. It's sponsored by the WACA Center at Northeastern, and it's an ability for this community to look at ways that, smart growth ways to develop our economy. So I think those are probably the three big things for me right now: vision, sustainability of programs and services, and the economic community development area.
Okay, thank you. Kev, what would be your library priorities?
Well, I'd like us to continue as we've been doing for, the last 10 years. Our problem has been money lately. We're fortunate in having a good board of trustees and a good director and a wonderful, I'm going to say society of friends, committee of Friends of the Library who provide programs and so on. It is terrific that we will have enough money to be open all day on Friday, starting in July, and have a bit more money for all the programs and materials and things that we would like to do that we haven't been able to do for lack of money. It's really as simple as that. And serving on the board, it's hard to say what changes I would make, except that if we had more money, we could do more things.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to be in full compliance, and thanks to the town manager and the assistant town manager and the meals tax that Steve mentioned, we are now going to be open Friday, but we're still closed Sunday, we're still closed Monday. But there's another part of this that people might not realize. And when you are not in full compliance, the state aid to the library that we get is not 100%. It went down to, I don't know, 75% or something. Yeah. And now maybe we're up to 85%. Those figures I don't know exactly. But when we go into full compliance and we have the complete, 50 hours a week, I think?
That's right. Depends on the population, how many hours we need to be open.
So then you see, we could get more state funding. So that's a goal, because it's sort of, if we lose the hours, lose the funding, then we lose the state funding, and it's sort of like, everything sort of multiplies. So that's a goal. The other part that I have mentioned to the town manager when he came to meet the library trustees and talk with us was I consider that I have an institutional memory. I have been here forever, and I know what happened to the library and what all the little tangles are. And one of the things that happened was that the town used to pay for $25,000 to be part of the Minuteman system. And then what happened was, one year, one town manager asked if we would pay for it ourselves, because we had been saving 4 years of state aid in order to make the move while the library was being built. So we had to move the books, we had to rent a place, we had to be somewhere else. And so we saved this money, and he said to us, would you take this on? And we said, yes, we'd be happy to help the town. We do have the money, and yes, this is something we are willing to do. The only problem is we've been paying ever since, and so that was, without having a budget cut, that was $25,000 out of our budget. And so I did speak to the town manager and say, I hope that at some point the town will consider taking this on, because that would be a big thing for us. But we are not willing ever to lose being part of the Minuteman system, because we can borrow from 42 libraries. I mean, you know, DVDs, books, e-books, and what happens is that you borrow them, and then they take them back for you. If I go to Waltham and borrow something, I can leave it here in Ashland and it'll be transported. So it's a wonderful system.
Okay, thank you. Other towns use affordable, this question might be for Michaela as well as Steve. Other towns use affordable housing funds under the Community Preservation Act to provide direct subsidies to the housing costs of the town's neediest residents. What's your opinion of using affordable housing funds in the CPA budget for direct subsidies to the housing costs of the town's neediest residents?
I guess that would be up to the Affordable Housing Committee. They're the ones that have the position to be able to do something like that. I mean, it's not a terrible idea. And it would be very nice if that's something that could go under the Preservation Act. Again, it's something that would have to be discussed through the Community Preservation Committee, of which I am a member through the Housing Authority. So it's something that could possibly be brought up and, you know, voted upon, and then we'd send a warrant out to the Board of Selectmen about it.
Well, I'm in favor of looking at a program like that. I think when you look at our current CPA, budget, most of it's being consumed by three big-ticket items. It's got a bond payment for Oak Street property, Warren Woods, and the field construction. So we're facing limitations in being able to fund in a number of different areas, except for the affordable housing bucket as such. And being somewhat familiar with CPA legislation over the years, it's a valid use of CPC funds, and I think it's something we should look at, absolutely.
Adam, this question is going to be for you, and anyone else who might want to reply. What kinds of things do you support to reduce the town's public and private energy footprint, its water usage, and its production of trash? Can we do better than what we've done so far, and if so, what specific things would you recommend, and what kind of role would you try to play as a member of the Board of Health should you be elected?
That's an excellent question. I know that there's a lot of opportunities with solar energy. We have companies that, or company at least, that just moved into town. You know, it's possible so that effectively the renting out of the solar panels is covered through the use of the extra energy that you generate, and that goes back to the utility, and you can lower energy that way. Most people have seen that there's solar energy panel farms all along, you know, the Westboro side of town, all the way down there. I think Southborough's adopted them as well, and it's certainly an opportunity for us to generate additional energy and lower our energy costs and the footprint from a whole town perspective. From a trash perspective, it always saddens me that we have one single Ashland cleanup day. And I live off of Winter Street. My wife and my two kids and I cleaned up Winter Street from Corderville all the way down to, I forget which one, it's like 3 streets down. And 2 days later, I'm driving down Winter Street and there's more bottles and there's more trash all over the place. And it's very, very frustrating. Okay? So one of the first things I'd like to see is we have, you know, kind of a Memorial Day one. Let's put one on Labor Day too. All right? I have no problem, and I think most of the people in town would have no problem of picking up the trash. Okay? And you just leave it on the corner for somebody to come pick it up. I thought it was excellent this year that they actually included a recycling bag as opposed to just a trash bag. Unfortunately, I filled the recycling bag with beer bottles and soda cans and everything up and down that street. But at least there's something more that can be done as opposed to just throwing it into another landfill. I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to reduce our carbon footprint. And I think we have to make sure that we're paying attention that it may be worth an expenditure in the short term, like to set up a solar energy farm, to get the long-term benefits.
Okay. Anyone else want to respond to that?
Well, you know, my husband and I like recycling, and we're picking up things along the front of our house, and we're thinking that, I don't know if just the town could do it, but could you raise the price of bottles and cans? I mean, kids drop it. They say it's a nickel. I don't care. Drop it. Whereas if it were a quarter, maybe they would save it. You get it back. The other thing I would like is it makes me crazy when I go to Market Basket and people are going out with those wagons. They've got 50,000 plastic bags. And I'm thinking, you know, they don't need 50,000 plastic bags. Where do those bags go? And my son lives in a community where they have banned them. They won't let them use them anymore in a supermarket. You know, not everything is banned, but I think that would be a good idea for us.
So is that a Board of Health issue or a selectmen issue if we were going to try to ban plastic
bags and raise the price of cans and
Well, if I'm not mistaken,
bottles?
I think Brookline may have banned plastic bags, and I'm not sure what the process or the mechanism was, but I would think it could come from any variety of sources. It could come from the Board of Health, it could come from the Selectmen, it could come from Sustainability Committee. I think we've got a very active Sustainability Committee that's, as Adam mentioned, is promoting solar energy. The town has entered into an agreement with Solar Flare, who recently moved into town. In fact, I just had my house over the weekend assessed for solar. I haven't gotten the results back yet, but I'll be interested. We're entering into an agreement, a contract with Amoresco, energy services provider that will be coming in to reduce our town-wide energy footprint, part of our Green Communities commitment. And we've also worked on zoning to allow for solar, for some large-scale ground-mounted solar arrays as well. So I think certainly town management and the selectmen have certainly moved forward in those areas to address, or continue to address and improve that component.
I think, too, we need to make sure we're doing things that we've already started. So if you've been to the high school, it's pretty new, and it's great. And it was built with solar panels on top of that so that they could defray the energy cost. And not a single one of them works anymore. So maybe we should fix that if we're trying to do these types of things. I love the idea about plastic bags, and I would take it a step further, okay? Everybody who's willing to give up these plastic bags, let's go out and buy 10,000 cloth bags, and I'll give each one of them out to one of these people. Yes, it's a short-term cost to the town, but from a long-term benefit for the environment, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Okay. Cab, back to the library for a moment.
Cab and Carol, it sounds alike.
The library is clearly a place in the community where you can borrow books, borrow DVDs, borrow music, go to children's programming, that kind of thing. Do you see any other functions that the library can serve and does serve for the community? Like how can we increase the importance of the library to the residents, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I was just thinking as they were talking, it's certainly energy saving to borrow a book rather than buy one and cut down a tree. I think that when we built the new library, we deliberately tried to have a room such as this one for people to meet in.
The cafe.
And the cafe, so if you have to eat your bag of chips, you can do it in one place and not spill crumbs all over the library. To have places for other meetings. We have a meeting room across the hall. To make it more of a community center with rooms available for organizations. It's hard to think what more we could be doing.
Well, if you had more money, what more would you be doing?
Well, if we had more money, we'd have more programs. I mean, we have things like the Friday evening movie. We have many children's programs. We have the Front Street Readers, which is the book club. We have programs like we had Ken Gloss of the Brattle Bookshop here talking and appraising for us. If we had more money, we could do more of this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Carolyn, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, I do the Friday night films, and last week I had 30 people here for Philomena, and the bulb blew. It was embarrassing. And someone said to me, well, it wasn't your fault. I said, it's embarrassing. So I said, I promise I'll show it next week. David Whitty came in and fixed my bulb. But the next week I had 10 people. So I'm thinking, okay, so maybe I'll show it the week after. But the it's fuzzy. The sound isn't good. We use the subtitles. So we're going to start looking into using donor money to buy a big screen TV, but we haven't figured out how to attach it to the wall, or do we wheel it in and out? We just haven't got the logistics of it. But you know, as I say, the technology is 10 years old. It's fuzzy, and I can't depend upon it. I'm scared every week I come in that something's going to happen. One week the sound didn't work. I don't know. We did. I was on the building committee. We did. In fact, I said we need wide windowsills. We need benches. We need places where people are going to come in and they're not going to be shushed, and they're going to meet and talk and so forth. But if we could, I don't know if the town has any idea how many volunteers we have. And if we could, I would love more children programming. I know that one time there were 100 people, parents and kids, and they couldn't be put in this room because there were too many. The idea of shutting out parents and kids, little kids they're coming here to learn to love the library. They're not the people you want to shut out. So I would expand some of the programs. I think the half-day programs are wonderful that the volunteers do, but that costs money too. I think considering how limited our budget has been and how generous the volunteers have been, this library has done really, really well. But I would like to expand children's programming more. That's something and we would need. See, the problem with that is we have one person there, one person here. Sometimes we have one person upstairs, one person downstairs. So if you have programming, who's there? Our director is wonderful. You see her, everybody knows her, she's public. But part of it is that she's not in her office because she can't be in her office because we're so shorthanded. She's at the desk and she's here and it works, it's great. It works great for us because people know our director. I know of no other library that I've ever been to where I knew who the director was when I walked into that library. But we are so shorthanded. If somebody gets sick, we're in trouble. Didn't we have to we had to close, I think.
Yes, we've had to close the library several times.
Because somebody got sick.
Because people were sick or on vacation, and we didn't have enough people. One person upstairs and one person down is the absolute minimum, and that's kind of dangerous.
I think it's dangerous.
Yes. One night when we were having a lot of sickness and problems, all 5 trustees were in the library shelving books. We're that stretched. And it's hard.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't intend to turn this into a plea for money.
It's okay. We have, this question is kind of for all of you. We have a new town administration, new town manager, new assistant town manager, a new town planner, a new police chief. For those of you who have been in office, how has that had an impact on your ability to do your job, and how has that been?
I'd like to say that when we started building this library, when I ran for office, as I say, I don't know, was it 1996 or something, 94, I don't know. But I started talking about the library. I wanted to do something more than what we had. And there were so many people who said, I don't see why you need a library. You can go to Holliston, you can go to Framingham. We don't need a library. And we do need a library. A library is a wonderful thing to have in a town. And Dexter Blois was the first town manager that I worked with. He was wonderful. The children's room when I came in was beige and dank and horrible. And I went to him and said, could you give me some paint? I can get the high school kids in the summer work program to come in and paint. He said yes. And it turned out to be a lot of money, like $400 and something. And his secretary, I heard gasping in the back. But and then when it came time to get the house next door, to buy the land, to check whether he was wonderful. And then ever since we haven't had a lot of support, to be honest. Really, we haven't. And then I met Michael Herbert and Anthony Schiavi, and it's like a fresh breeze. All of a sudden they turned around and said, oh, the library exists. It's a nice place. We want to help you. We want to support you. What can we do? And almost as soon as he was here, we had money for a Friday opening. We suddenly moved up on getting off the waiver, and he said that's all it took. And now we have that next little level to go to. But we have been so re-energized with the arrival of these new people. We're very excited.
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's a short answer.
I think the worst thing anybody can say, a library trustee can say about someone is, I don't think he reads. And I think we had several town managers who didn't read and didn't appreciate the importance of the library. And I think that our current town manager does.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, as a member of the board that hired the new town manager, and being chair at that time, I remember using the term a non-traditional candidate, and Tony very much is, I guess, in the sense of the town administration industry. But you know, for me, it's been a pleasure to work with certainly Tony and Mike. I think when you look over the past year since Tony became our full-time town manager, and you look at the improvements, the positives that have occurred, the bond ratings, the reserve policies, the debt policies, the hirings that Tony has made, the performance management review process, all of these things that are, I believe, are intended to give taxpayers the best value for their money. And so it's been a pleasure to work. You know, selectmen often aren't wise, and selectmen often aren't used in the same sentence. But I think we were wise in hiring Tony.
And Michaela, do you want to add anything to that?
I haven't been elected before, so I get a free pass on this one.
Oh. Okay. As far as the housing authority, because we're not Ashland oriented, I haven't had the privilege, but being a member of the Ashland Lions Club, I do all the public relations, and I get the speakers for the Ashland Lions Club. It's been a pleasure. I've had each and every one of them, the chief of police, the town manager. I've had the Joel from the bike club. I've had Enzo from the, I almost said Rehabilitation Act. Oh, it's not rehabilitation, it's redevelopment. Thank you. Don't tell him I said that. Oh my goodness.
I think he'll see it on WACA.
And they've been wonderful. Again, being in the town for 45 years, I drove school bus for the town of Ashland for 12 years. I was the dog officer for many years. I used to always drive the selectmen to their midnight happy hour things, and as a bus driver. So I've been through a lot through the town of Ashland, And I think that these new people are wonderful. They're so involved, and they make it almost breathable to be a resident of Ashland again, which hasn't really happened in a long time. So I'm, again, as a member of the Housing Authority, it would not have anything but other standard that I do, because I'm also a member of the Friends of Council of Aging, and I mean, they're always there to eat. Thank you very much.
Okay. This is a question for everyone. If you're elected to the position for which you're running, no one expects you all to have all the answers all of the time. And there will be times when you'll need to consult with outside experts, but there will be times when you'll turn to the residents for opinions and for guidance. So how do you each plan to engage the residents to the highest degree? And how do you plan to be accountable to them, particularly if you decide not to take their opinion or their viewpoint into consideration? How do you plan to communicate with them in a way so that they continue to be engaged and excited to participate without feeling that they're being ignored? So I'm going to start with Adam.
Okay. I had this discussion last year, and some folks had suggested, office hours at the Dunkin' Donuts to share coffee. Again, I'll share a soda with anybody. I hate coffee, so I can't do that part. But I think there's a lot of avenues for us to be able to communicate. I think, from my perspective, I would be happy to have a certain time frame within each week where somebody could come down and talk face to face. We have email, we have a lot of different electronic methods, and I would prefer a face-to-face or at least a live conversation because it's much easier to determine tone and what people are thinking. I would also like to say that there should never be a time where you don't consider somebody's viewpoint, okay? You may not agree with it, but it certainly should be taken into consideration when we go out there and try and take the best steps forward that we can. I think everyone in town needs to realize that a decision is supposed to be made with the town's best interests in mind, and that never hits 100% of everybody, but that the goal of elected officials is to make the town better, and if you don't think that we're doing that job, the way you hold us accountable is don't re-elect us.
Okay, Steve?
Well, my experience over the last 3 years certainly is that being actively engaged in the community on a whole host of levels is what's worked best for me. Certainly through my work with the farmers market, certainly with, we typically shop local, so we're in restaurants, we're in stores, we're around town. We're always face-to-face with people. There's no lack of that sort of interaction. Certainly being on the Board of Selectmen, it's probably the most active board where citizens come and participate, make their feelings known. But, I believe that, and I think I've always conducted myself in a manner that is approachable and people can come and speak. And again, I would agree with Adam. We may not agree, but we're going to dialogue and we'll come to a decision, and this is the way business is conducted. But I think that's worked for me. It's just that sort of involvement in the town on a variety of levels, not just the selectmen.
Okay, great. Thanks. Cap?
Well, I think that I'm always open to hearing what people think and want for the library, both here in the library and around and about town. I would not say people are shy about voicing their opinions, and if it's something that should go before the board, it does. I consider myself a representative of the library, and if you have something you need to discuss with me, I'm here to hear it.
Great, thanks. I'm going to split the library ladies up for a minute and bounce back to Michaela and then go over to Carolyn.
To get the attention of the people of the town of Ashland, Since I'm of the very quiet type, I would beg, borrow, and steal. I think the town of Ashland has a lot to offer. I think the people are willing and able. I know I volunteer for the senior center when I can. I certainly can volunteer for the library. I didn't know you were looking. I'm retired now, oh God, and willing. And so I would do my best, but your best bet, you have the Newtown Ashland newspaper. That's a great newspaper that comes out monthly. That's how I got all of the people, because they were really taking Ashland and telling the people who were there to help you in all these committees and things. You have the directions, you have people willing to learn and listen, and there are people out there, and what they like to do is be asked. All you have to do is ask, and most people would love to respond. I know that's how I got on all these committees, you know, once my children were grown up and on their own. It's such a pleasure to be able to help people. I mean, I'm so glad I'm on the Ashland Housing Authority to help the poor and the disabled, and do everything I can, make my voice heard to like Keith Tech or to the Middlesex Sheriff's Department, and anybody I can to hear, so that we can do things for people. I think people are very willing to help. Just ask. You can put a big ask, or just ask.
Okay, thank you. And Carol?
She's absolutely right. When I first came on the board, I was very shy to ask people to do anything. I didn't know about volunteering, except I was really interested in the library. And I discovered, we went through a lot of committees, because we had building committees and search committees and director search committee. I can't tell you how many different committees we had to. And you just ask people, and they'd say, oh, I don't think I had anybody refuse me, unless they were busy on another committee or something. And I would like to vouch for Steve, by the way, because when I walk at Cushing and he's walking his dog, he will stop and he sees us coming, and my husband's worse than I am, I think, in his enthusiasm for the town. And so he really does. We'll walk away and we'll say, gosh, he didn't mind talking to us. And I've asked him sometimes, what do I do about this, or how do I do that? And he's always been very encouraging. I think because Ashland is, 15,000 people? We're in each other's, we're around. We go to the library, we go to the same stores. People know each other. There's schools, the teams.
So Bill is not here tonight, so I'm going to agree with you.
So.
Okay. I just have a couple more questions before I open it to the floor. What other committees, because some of you have talked about your past experience, so I just thought if we could just go quickly around the table and people could just say, in addition to the elected position they're currently seeking, have they served or do they currently serve on any other group or committee in the town? Michaela? And it's okay if you don't, I just want you to give a chance to mention it to people. And you want anything besides the housing?
I'm the CPC.
Right,
I'm
representing the housing committee.
housing.
Okay, great. Adam?
I'm a board member for the Ashland Education Foundation, and I'm also one of the Warren Dad volunteers that helps out around that school, putting up the tent, cleaning up the yard so that they can save some money on landscaping, things of that nature.
Nice.
Great. See, you did talk a lot.
I did mention earlier, currently on the, serve on the Ashland Farmers Market Steering Committee. I'm also on the steering committee for the planned Music and Arts Festival scheduled for September. Prior experience, if that's applicable, would be Finance Committee and the last Charter Review Committee.
Okay, great. Kath?
Not for the town of Ashland.
Okay, Carol?
Mine are all library related.
Okay. All right. 2 more questions. The best kept secret about the town. What do you think people don't know about Ashland that you'd like them to know, either from the perspective of the office that you're running for, or just your perspective as a resident?
I'll do that. For a long time, it would be very upsetting to see Ashland, the comic page, on the front page of the local paper. I mean, it went on for years. A fire chief stealing the fire truck. I mean, any number of crazy stuff that went on. And sometimes it was so discouraging. And then, you know, I taught for almost 40 years at the high school. And when I had my children, each one, I said, gosh, I hope they have these friends. I hope they have friends like these. And as they came through the school, they had good friends. And Ashland is a really good place. It's not snotty. I don't think that's a good word, but it's not snotty. It is what it is. I think it's a genuine place. And I think people care here. I think people were truly anguished the last couple of years when things were so terrible in this town. And I think that this is a very strong town with a very strong sense of tolerance. When I started teaching in Ashland, there were Catholics, Protestants, maybe one black person, maybe one Jew every 3 or 4 years, and pretty much that. When I left Ashland High School, we had flags in the cafeteria. I think we had something like 38 flags representing the countries that the kids had come from, their origins. And you would tap a kid who was a basketball player and say, I heard you speak Russian, would you say good morning to me in Russian? And then he'd speak a little Russian. I had a boy who spoke Danish. It's just been an amazing place where I think that people have been welcoming, cautious maybe, but welcoming. I think it's a good town.
Okay. Steve, do you want to take it, and then
Sure.
we'll go back?
Well, I think maybe a well-kept secret is the opportunities that the cultural economy may have to offer for Ashland. And I think that we're starting to see some germination in that area. And I would go to your points earlier, Carolyn, about certainly your passion about the library, and to me, the library is part of that cultural economy in a sense. And and to define it, things like the Ashland Cultural Council, the Farmers Market, a music and arts festival. It's a whole host of things, and there's a lot of evidence that cultural economies are economic drivers. I know Kathy Rooney's involved in a festival down in New Bedford, highly successful, 2 festivals, highly successful, and it generates a ton of money for the community. So it's provides value to the community. It provides, it's an economic engine as well. Bonnie and I go to the Center for Arts in Natick. It's a beautiful facility in their old firehouse. Just a thought, what if we turned our firehouse into a facility like that? So I think that's, I think we're starting to see growth in that area, and I think it's still a secret at this point.
Okay, great. Adam?
For me, I think it's the schools. I couldn't tell you how much my smile extended when I read that article that said our high school is one of the top 20 in the state. When I first came to Ashland, my son was in the middle school, and he didn't have the same principal from the start of the year to the end of the year in his entire time in the middle school. You know, to see what Dave, what Jim, and all the other principals and teachers do here, I'm absolutely amazed that every time I call with a question or problem, I walk away with a smile. They want to help, they want to do a great job, and I can't tell you how proud I am to say that my kid does go to Ashland for the schools, and I know he's going to walk out, or she's going to walk out with an education that they're going to be ready to go.
Good, thank you. Michaela, do you have anything?
I don't keep secrets very well. So probably everything I've ever wanted to say has been said and probably written down. So, but I love Ashland. I mean, like I said, 45 years, and my kids, one of my sons has a business here, and my grandchildren. It's a wonderful town. I think we can do a lot with, again, asking people to volunteer. The best well-kept secret is that we're a great town.
Okay, great. And Kat, is there anything you want to add?
Well, I don't think these are secrets. I think that Ashland is known for its good schools.
Yes.
I agree.
Although I would agree with Carolyn that we've had a lot of bad press lately. I don't think that the good things that have been mentioned are all that secret.
Okay. And my last question before I turn this over to the audience is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to say, that you want people to know about? Michaela, anything that you haven't said about yourself and what you would do if you were elected, or anything?
I've said it all.
You've said it all. Okay. Adam?
Well, I just want people to feel comfortable that there's going to be an open dialogue, as Steve said, and that any idea is going to be looked into. And nobody expects anyone to be an expert, but the job is to go out there and find answers and talk it through so that we can get to the right solution.
Okay. Steve?
I would just like to, I guess, speak just briefly to some of the comments that both Caroline and Cab made relative to the challenges that we've faced in the past, and we certainly have. And my feeling is that we've beyond that. That's in the rearview mirror at this point. I think over the last year we've made a lot of very positive movement on a variety of areas in town, and I think we're continuing to move in that direction. My view is that it will get better and better as we focus more and more on those quality of life issues.
Cab? Anything? Carolyn?
Well, I was at the point where I was thinking, do I really have to run again? Everything's been done that I wanted. And then things changed. And, I've mentioned what I think changed, and I'm here for another 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to open this to folks in the audience. If people have questions, if you could just raise your hand, I'll recognize you, and then if you could stand up and say it loudly enough so that it's caught by the microphone and everyone else could hear you. Preston?
Yes, this question is for Adam. I've been surprised as I've heard about the Board of Health in Ashland and other towns over the years to learn just how much authority and power the Board of Health really has to make decisions that have a big effect on the community, everything from whether or not to fluoridate the water to all sorts of things with tobacco, like raising the tobacco age for sales in town. Wondering your perspective on some of the areas that the Board of Health regulates. There's some you think we're regulating too much, or there's some you think we're not regulating enough. There's some you think we just really ought to be looking at more than we're looking at right now.
Sure. In going through some of the meeting minutes and some of the different things that the Board of Health deals with, it's, as you said, it's a wide swath of what gets covered. In theory, the Board of Health, if they find that a business is in violation, can walk in and shut them down on the spot. And, that's a very huge impact thing to do. I would like to think that decisions like that and how we regulate other things are made by doing a full investigation. When we have an emergency situation, we had a situation about a year ago where something brown was coming through the bubbler at Warren School. So it was like, okay, we got to get somebody on this right away and deal with these problems. But we need to be doing thorough investigations. And you know what? I'm absolutely okay with raising the tobacco age if that's what the general town prefers. I have a teenager that I don't want to see going down that road, okay? As much as we might have to deal with it, I hope that a marijuana dispensary never comes into this town. I don't want my kids to have any exposure to that, and I'm sure most people feel the same way. But these are the kinds of things that I think we have to be ready to deal with, and I would prefer to be proactive. So if there's a short list or even a long list where you say, you know what, there's some things here we need to look at, let's talk about them now so that we're ready if an issue comes up to take care of it, or engender a change, like you said, raise the tobacco price. You can ban certain things from being sold as well. Certainly going back to what Carolyn said, we can require people not to use plastic bags. So there's a lot of opportunity here that I'm hoping that people are willing to reach out and propose to the committee so that we can start to take action.
Anyone else want to respond to that question, or are we all set? Okay. Anyone else have a question? Yes, please.
Carolyn, you mentioned earlier that it's $75 for the library to purchase an ebook. So why is that?
It's the publishers. They're making money. I don't know why, because it shouldn't cost them. I mean, paper seems, and hardcover and glue seems to me to be more expensive. But no, I've got the figure from the MBLC and from Paula. If you, right?
Yes.
Well, I did. I bought a book today. I hate to do it because I like my library, but I bought a book for $16. Now, if it had been an e-book, and I can give it to the library, I can give it to the book sale when I'm through, I can give it to a friend. Now, the e-book is like $13. Do you have a Kindle or something?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, but the library has to pay, according to the MBLC, $75. And I don't know if the figure is 29 uses or 36 uses. I've seen both figures. Paula would tell you. It's crazy. But they're expensive. And if you download the library's ebooks, right, you get them for 2 weeks. You don't get an extension. It goes boom. It stops. Whereas that's not true with a hardcover book.
So there's nothing we can do to change that. That's just something that's changing now. We're going to be having more and more ebooks, and it's going to affect your budget even more so, I would think.
Yeah, it's the publishing. It's the deals they're making.
And this kind of thing isn't as regulated as it may become, because we can lend a hardcover book
to anybody.
Well, 50 times.
Yeah.
And there's no limit on how many times we can lend it. We've bought it. It belongs to us. That is not true of an e-book, and they can cut it off after a certain number of borrowings at this outrageous price. We are not happy with this. Regulatory questions have been asked, but people love their e-books. I can understand this. I have an e-book. And it's the latest thing, too, which has something to do with it. And if you can get an e-book downloaded free from the library, of course you're going to do that and save the $12. But we're paying this huge price for something with limited borrowing privileges, and we don't like it any more than you do. What the Ashland Public Library can do about that is lodge a protest. We already have. I think this will be regulated, I hope, in future.
Joel?
Hi. First, I just want to thank all of you for running for these positions. I was thinking about if we added up all the volunteers in town, what our town budget would look like, and I didn't sleep well. So I'm really appreciative that you're doing what you're doing. I have a question about the library budget, and my recollection of what we just passed in at town meeting was an increase in the line item for the library. I think it was only $11,000. And I asked about that, and they said this is great because the waiver will be discontinued now, which is a great thing. But when you
we don't have to request the waiver. We don't have to do that, but we're not at full compliance, so we're still not getting 100% state aid to the library. We're still not at the number of hours we need to be, and we're still limited staff.
So here's my question. I'm glad you brought that up. $11,000 is less than $1 per resident for what is essentially one of our 2 community centers in Ashland. Less than $1 a resident. That's the priority that we have given as a community to the library, an increase of $1 per resident or less than that. And my question for you is, in the role that you all play in your next term, what can you do to inform the residents about spending more on the library and what the value to the community would be? And what process do you see happening there? You know, is it just a matter of talking with the town manager to see what's open in the budget? Or can you be more proactive than that and try to reach out to the residents and build more consensus for an increase of whatever the magnitude might be?
Well, I'd like to say that every month our fines by state law go back to the town. We have approximately $1,000 a month. So we're giving back to the town $12,000 in fines that you're now giving to us in $11,000.
And everyone thinks that the fines go to the library. This is not the case.
They go to the town
And
budget.
it's not just Ashland, it's every town in Massachusetts.
So my question is, how can you be proactive to try to build a greater consensus? You've made a great case for the need for more support and funding, but what actions will you take to actually bring that about?
Well, coming tonight with my list, and I'm going to see about having the per capita funding posted in the library so people understand. To be honest, I spoke to Cynthia Whitty and I said, "You're a writer, can't you write something? When are you going to write about us?"
Good.
So, and now, you know, we're here and, you know, I mean, doesn't it shock you? Frankly, doesn't it? It shocked me when I saw Millis is $42 per capita. Millis. And Mendon is $30 per capita, and we're 18. Really? How can
Where
that
do we
be?
stand in the Commonwealth? Aren't we on the bottom?
Oh, yeah, we're like 2 up from the bottom. I'll tell you who's lower than we are. Well, do you really want to hear this? I mean, I went through the list. It's on the MBLC. I got Chelsea at $8.32. I got Fall River at $11.19, and Revere. Now, I hope they get that casino. Seriously, because $9 per capita, and we're 18. I mean, it's shocking. When you now Weston, I know Weston, but all right, Westwood $71, Weston $111, Westboro $49, Watertown $74, Bedford, my friend, $88. You know, Dedham $41. I mean, these figures are amazing. They amaze me.
I think we're being told to
I can't see that far.
It's the hot pink. When the hot pink comes up, that's the stop button. Okay, I think that you just hit on one of the best kept secrets in Ashland. You know, I think that is, people don't know that.
If I may, and it's unfortunate, I happen to live with a librarian, so I'm with you on this. And it's unfortunate, but we have, as a community, placed libraries at a low level, not just our public library, but our school libraries. We've just reinstated librarians in the schools after how many years of depending on volunteers. So it is a challenge. I don't know, how that or why that kind of cycle started, but it started, and this is where we're at, and we need to reverse that. We started to do so in the schools, and to go to Joel's point, how can we better be proactive in terms of getting numbers higher than what they are now?
Okay. Any other questions?
I'd like to say something. I'd like to say, when you go to the library, you walk in, you look around, and you can take out anything you want. And when you return it, they say thank you. I know of no other place that works like that. If you go to a store, they're not always nice about your returns. It's a wonderful thing that we have between public education and the public library.
Cynthia, you have a question?
I have a question about the solar program. I know I'm learning a little bit about it right now. Solar flare, there's an open house tomorrow, which I hope to go to and learn some more. But I'm wondering about solar on town buildings. Is that a possibility on the schools, on town hall, on the library?
If I may, so yes, solar flare, open house ribbon cutting tomorrow at their facility at Pleasant Street. But our last town meeting, we passed the warrant article to approve funding for entering into an agreement with Amoresco. Part of that Amoresco agreement is to look at solar on buildings. We've also, so school buildings and other public buildings. I think that to go to Adam's point earlier about the high school's solar array, current solar array, is in the process of being fixed. I think the funding is in place to get that fixed as well. So, definitely a commitment to solar renewables in the town, as well as the zoning change that we made at town meeting as well.
Joel, you have another question?
Yeah, question for Steve. Everybody's heard the expression, everyone complains about the weather, but no one does anything about it. The heart and soul of democracy is public involvement, public information and education, public volunteering, and I think anybody making a fair assessment of the engagement in our community, just looking for a small attendance here, uncontested seats, people are not volunteering for these key positions to the level we'd like to see, and there's probably 1,001 ideas out there, but none of them has worked. So I guess my question is, what ideas can you contribute to things we might try to do to get a broader spectrum of Ashland's community involved in attending town meeting, coming to forums, being on the town's website or mail list so that they can be more informed about what's going on, just becoming better citizens and more involved?
Sure. Well, good question, something I've thought about a lot. We did speak to citizen involvement at town meeting relative to a warrant article on the quorum. We did raise it from 5 to 25. The original request was for 75. I felt that the 25 was kind of a good intermediary step to take. I think we could all appreciate, though, the spirit that that warrant article was brought forth, and why isn't there greater participation? I think there's a whole host of reasons for it, whether it's the demands on time. I believe a lot of our local politics is agenda-driven, so that people come and they focus on that one issue that's of interest to them, and they move on. And sitting at that table in front of town meeting and watching the ebb and flow of people come and go, you can see where that occurs. But to get to your question, which is, how do we improve that? And I think, we're starting to see some mechanisms for doing that, whether it's the town's email, their Blackboard site. We're looking at a Citizens Academy to do that. I think Kathy Rooney brought up at town meeting talking about education. I'm not sure. I was hoping Lori could address, how do the schools speak to civic engagement? Is it a priority there? Is it something that children are exposed to? But I think Kathy had a great point about that whole process, and it's got to start at a young age. And we've got a core group of very passionate volunteers, and I think we need to, we just need to continue to be proactive in that area. I mean, it's a challenge. It's one of my challenges is to grow that involvement.
Cynthia?
I just have a question that kind of follows that. Would you consider having the town meeting, in 2 nights, so that people can, so that it doesn't go on so long? I know for me, the last few years I had more flexibility. I could stay for the whole thing till 11, 11:30, whatever. And this town meeting, I couldn't do that. I had to leave because I had to get up the next morning early. And I have checked with other towns, and some other towns do that, so that, it ends at a certain time, you're going to go home at a certain time. And would that be a possibility?
Well, it's certainly a possibility. I think that town meeting should take as long as it needs to take. And I think what happens is, If we get to a certain point in the warrant articles and we're close to the end, then we all agree we're just going to suck it up and stay and finish in that one night. There's no reason why we can't consider a second night or a third night if necessary, but I guess my concern is, and it's no different than raising the quorum level, that's no guarantee that people are going to come or going to participate. So having that second night is no guarantee that that continuation. And again, I think we need to try to work with the idea that today it seems that most local involvement is agenda-driven. And we need to work to make the commitment, the commitment to the democratic process, I guess, more holistic, not just agenda-driven. And I've been reading a book recently called Slow Democracy, and very interesting book. It means a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean town meetings should be slow, but it's, yes, it should be looked at. I can't, Cynthia, when was the last time that we had 2 nights of town meeting? It's probably 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know, you know, I was pooped that night too. I mean, you know, 10:30, I'm ready to go home as well. But again, we were close. Let's finish.
Take maybe one more question, if there is any, 1 or 2 minutes. You have a question?
Thank you. This one's for Adam. A lot of our town boards, for example, the planning board, the Board of Health, and others, primarily play a regulatory role. There are certain laws that have to be upheld. You go around and inspect cleanliness of restaurants and so on, which is great. I always appreciate that, but I'd also like to see the boards be much more proactive, especially in the area, not of passing a bunch of new regulations, which may or may not be necessary, depending on what the area is, but on public education. So we have, I mean, you know, these aren't Ashland secrets, they're national problems with things like childhood obesity or pesticides in the environment. And I guess my question is, you know, what role do you see the Board of Health playing with regard to picking issues like that that are not a citizen coming with a complaint and not somebody breaking a law, but really getting out and teaching us? You guys have more information usually than most residents. To what degree do you see that being a key role for the Board of Health?
I think it's really important. We have a captive audience, right? Preschool all the way to the end of high school. I went to one of the school committee meetings and I was talking to Ms. Bowden, who handles all of the lunches and things like that, and she says, how is it that we're promoting healthy eating habits when the prize for one class completing something was a pizza party? Okay, how does that make any sense? Okay, so we should be giving a consistent message about healthy eating. You know, in high school, the kids actually take a health and wellness class. There's similar modules for that for every grade level. You know, we should be bringing in speakers who can talk on particular topics. We should be able to bring in information that's appropriate for the different age levels of the kids so that it's just normal for them to eat healthy and to choose, you know, a sandwich over a pizza or a piece of fruit over a piece of candy. With a 6-year-old, that's a real tough battle. So, you know, anything that we can do that helps the parents at the same time, because you want that consistent message, okay? You know, it's real hard when my 6-year-old comes home and says, so can I have dessert tonight? And you're sitting there thinking, well, yeah, but do you want that fruit salad, or are you really saying I want the cupcake? So we have a really incredible opportunity when partnering with the schools to be proactive and to, you know, give them that chance to promote healthy eating and living.
One last one. Well, I asked everyone else a question, so this one's for Michaela. It was really horrible to learn from you that we have 30 people on a waiting list for the housing units that you have in town.
Right.
We see in town all kinds of affordable housing being built. There's all kinds of other housing initiatives that don't serve this community, these 30 people.
Correct.
And what can you do, or what can the town do? This is a question for anybody who has an answer here. I mean, it's a pretty horrible thing to either be homeless or being driven out of your house or be on this kind of waiting list. what will it take to have your agency or yourself work with the town and try to find solutions to provide housing for the people who need housing?
Since we're not town-driven, we're state-driven, the affordable housing, we're not considered affordable housing. We're below that. And of course, we cater to people from Ashland first, you know, even though the waiting list is 30, a lot of them, out of that waiting list also, 13.5% is, the state only allows us for disabled. That's 5 out of my 40 units. That's for disabled people. I mean, there should be so many more housing for the low income, and it's too bad it isn't. The towns don't get involved. Again, the housing authorities are state mandated. Again, to get something done, when I went to the affordable housing and asked for the doors and windows that were so necessary, which was supposed to be in the year 14-15, but because we had such a bad sewer problem, the state had to come fix our sewer because we're entitled to X amount, you know, and the windows and doors were put off to 2016 and 17. Just so unacceptable. And luckily Steve from the affordable housing said, that's preservation, we can help you. Let us help you. The problem is the state is government issued, government, so if I want doors and windows, I can't just say, okay, I'm going to get 3 estimates and get doors and windows. I have to get an architect, I have to do union, I have to get, it's all political. Can they afford more to help the low income? Yes, I think they can. Should the towns become involved? I don't know. I mean, you know, like I said, there's a big difference between affordable housing and low income. I wish we could help everybody. I mean, I wish we could add 40 more units. And like I said, and people come with all the flowers. Right across the street is a community garden. I went there a couple of times, and they said, oh, we have some leftover food. And I said, oh, can I bring it to the people of the Ashland, the housing authority? We have a kitchen. They'd share. You know, it would be nice if people could do that. I don't even think they know the difference between affordable housing and our unit. And that's what's sad. But yes, I think, it would be wonderful if we could add it. I don't know how.
Okay. I'm going to turn to closing remarks. And I started opening remarks at the audience. We're going to do closing remarks here. And you each have 2 minutes to summarize your qualifications or tell us why you want to win this seat or what you would do for the town, whatever you want to say in 2 minutes. Michaela?
My qualifications are, I care. I was 66 years old when I got my degree at Northeastern University in business management and finance. That was 7 years ago. It took me 16 years. Again, like I said, it was important for me. Driving school bus for 12 years. I brought my kids from the 1st grade to the 12th grade. I went to school with Barry Ruthfield at BU in the early 60s. So he helped me a lot when I was driving school bus because he was the superintendent of schools. It's a volunteer position. And like you said, none of us, no one wants our position. No one, and it's sad because there's so much that people can do. And like I agreed with, ask. There is so much that we can do. And like I said, right across the street they're saying, we have leftover food. I said, oh, people are right there. They really can use it. We have a kitchen. We have a refrigerator. We can, you know, let them know. People don't know it's there. And that's what's sad. Again, you know. So I guess that's my qualifications. I care.
Okay, thank you.
And volunteer.
Thank you. Adam?
Well, I'd like to echo Michaela's statements. I think everyone who's running today is doing so because they care. I certainly care. You know, I have kids in our school system. I want to see the town be the best it can be. And as somebody who's newer to town, I definitely can say that I've felt the change in attitude and momentum over the last year to year and a half. And I think we're going in a great direction. And I'd love the opportunity to serve the town and be able to do that at the Board of Health. And I hope you'll give me your vote.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, thank you again for moderating. Thank you to Friends of the Library, We Love Ashland, and to WACA. I think based on my experience, my community involvement, I believe that I have demonstrated a commitment to service, a commitment to the growing the opportunities that are available to Ashland. I think over the last year and a half, we've made tremendous improvements in a lot of areas, and both operationally and I think in terms of those quality of life issues that we need to continue to focus on. And I'd like the opportunity to really continue to work what I think is unfinished business for myself, and I would appreciate your support for another 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Cal?
Well, I've been a reader all my life. I love the library. I have 12 years experience on the library board. I think we've made great progress on the library, and I would like to continue working to continue.
Thank you. Carol?
Well, I think it's a pleasure to be at the table with such nice people and such caring people. And I think maybe that's why nobody's running against us, because there's no need. Because we're so wonderful. We're going to keep doing the job. One time we did have an opening on the board, and 6 people, I think it was 6.
Oh, yes.
6 people came forward and were vying for the position. And it was very painful, I think, for a lot of us, selectmen and the library trustees, to have to make a decision, because they were wonderful people. So I think as soon as we aren't running next time, there are openings. People will step forward. I just think this happens to be a good year for us.
Okay. Thank you all very much. I also want to thank again the co-sponsors of tonight's event, We Love Ashland and the Friends of the Ashland Public Library, the volunteer organizers, Betsy Emberly, Denise Montoya, Kathy Rooney, and Cynthia Whitty, the Ashland Public Library itself for allowing us to use this space, Ashland Cable Access, WACA-TV, for filming this program, and our candidates again, Michaela Eldridge, Adam Elbert, Steve Mitchell, Cab Rabinowitz, and Carolyn Bell. And tonight's audience for coming and asking questions, and those of you who are going to watch this at home. The video will go into post-production, so we don't know exactly the schedule that it will be shown on WACA-TV, but it's on Comcast 8 and Verizon 45. So just keep checking and watching. And I want to remind everyone that the election is May 20th at the Ashland High School, and that it is your town, and your voice needs to be heard, and you need to make decisions about who represents you and who does the business of the town. And even if the seats are uncontested, you need to go out and vote, and we hope to see you all at the polls. Thank you again so much for all of your service and for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ever since I was a little girl, I've dreamed of my senior prom.
Having the most amazing day, and I did.
Until I made a poor decision.
A decision that changed the rest of my life.
And the decision that ended my best friend's life.
I learned the hard way that prawns and alcohol don't mix.
And I had to deal with the consequences of getting into that car every single day.
Everyone makes mistakes. Don't let this be your last one.
Drop the gun. Put the gun down. Put the gun down. Put the gun on the ground.
We've got to acknowledge the retirement of Dublin, the Ashland Fire Department rescue dog.
To all the members of the Ashland Fire Department who
It's our Super Bowl, basically, and so we work really hard with all the staff to make sure that everything is exactly the way it needs to be to present to the town.
My favorite flowers. Thank you. Mama, Drew asked me to come.
Officer Bradley, and I need to inform you that your daughter was in a bad car accident with an intoxicated driver and she didn't make it out. And I hate to break the news to you this way, but
you wouldn't think the cafeteria would be a scary place. But last year, someone wiped peanut butter on me.
It happened to me on the school bus. So I decided to walk for a while. It makes me not want to go to school sometimes.
There are 5.9 million kids in the U.S. living with food allergies. And nearly 40% have suffered a severe or life-threatening reaction because of them.
School's supposed to feel safe, but sometimes I don't feel that way.
Would you believe that 1/3 of all kids with food allergies are bullied because of them?
I told them to stop. I don't understand. They just want to hurt me.
Right now, we're working on a cure for food allergies.
They tried to make me eat it, but it's like they don't get it.
Until then, there is a cure for food allergy bullying. You. Go to foodallergy.org to teach your kid about the seriousness of food allergies. You could help save a life. Or help someone have a better one.
If I'm not at school, I can't get bullied.
Food allergy bullying. It's not a joke.
This summer, dig up some fun. Dig into reading. Who knows what you'll find? Explore with books and make the light shine. If you dig deep and are very clever, you'll find adventure and buried treasure. Watch the past unfold as stories are told. When you discover books, your imagination explodes. There's an amazing world right under your feet. Uncover the secret to make your summer complete. Visit your library and dig into reading.